And we're live. Welcome to yet another edition of our PCS Impact Q&A. I am your host, MJ Boyce, and I am the Director of Community Outreach here at PCS Grades. Boom! We have a fantastic show for you today, and we have an amazing team here from US Transportation Command. They are amazing. I can't wait to introduce them. And before we do, I'm just going to hit those housekeeping items very quickly as we do every week. Ready, set, here we go. Okay, people, we've got the answers. And if we don't have those answers, guess what? We know who does. And if we don't know either of those things, we're going to take your questions for action and get back to you with an answer. Speaking of questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, shout outs, go ahead and drop those in the comment section below and engage with us and one another. For every time you do, you have a chance to enter the wheel of names and be chosen at the end for a pretty cool prize. Next up, we bring the experts to you. Experts like our friends here at US Transportation Command, experts like the International Association of Movers and military spouse employment advocates and military education experts. We bring these experts to you because they're the source. However, sometimes you're going to run into an issue that is specific to you and your military family. And in those instances, your two forever and always resources will be, number one, your local chain of command. Number two, your local transportation office. Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who are dealing with your stuff. And those are the people who could take your issues and actually further them for action. Of course, you've always got PCS Grades at the helm, where you can read and leave reviews by military families just like yours, as well as area guides, VA age calculators, and so much more. And so head on over to PCSgrades.com, but wait, because we got a lot to say today. Last but not least, and I do this every single week and it's modified, let's keep doing our part, people. We've got to flatten the curve, because when we flatten the curve, we flatten he who shall not be named along with it. Do you hear us? M-word, we are coming for you. And with that, I would like to introduce our guests for today from U.S. Transportation Command. And I would like to please start out with Colonel Marshana Gibson. Colonel Gibson, would you mind telling our audience just a little bit about yourself, please?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us once again. I know we really enjoy these opportunities to speak directly with the customers that we are trying to service in our program. I'm Colonel Martiana Gibson. I'm the Deputy Director for the Defense Personal Property Management Office here at US TRANSCOM. And I've been here since July of 2019. So enjoying this assignment, enjoying the opportunity to have a chance to impact families across the board in every aspect of our Department of Defense. Over.
And I love that you say over. I really appreciate that. That is pretty cool. No, I love it. I love it. Okay, next up, I would like to introduce Mr. Danny Martinez.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I am the Systems Division Chief for the Defense Personal Property Management Office, and really appreciate the opportunity today to talk a little bit about the Global House of Goods contract. I played a role in preparing that and making sure that all of the requirements were in line. I've also been involved in this program for probably a good 15 years or so in different aspects at the installation level, as well as at the command level, and doing a lot of work over the years with industry and trying to make the program better. So I'm pretty excited about my segment today, and I appreciate the chance to participate.
Wonderful and welcome. And I would also like to introduce Miss Melissa Jordan.
Hi, thank you, MJ. Hi, everyone. I am Melissa Jordan. I am the Division Chief for Strategic Engagements in the Defense Personal Property Management Office. And that means that my team and I really spend most of our time on strategic communication, customer-facing communication, and stakeholder outreach. And in this role, we basically support all of the mission lines of effort that you're going to hear about today. And I'm really excited about some things that we have lined up, some new initiatives that we can share with you whenever you're planning your PCS move next season. Thanks, MJ.
Awesome. Welcome. And then last but certainly not least, Miss Janie Arnston.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Janie Arnson. I'm the DPMO's Data and Analytics Office Chief. I'm excited to talk to you today about our newly launched customer-facing dashboard. One of the initiatives my team's been working along with tracking and analyzing all of the program's data and analytics. So, thank you.
Thank you and welcome. This is the first time we've had this many faces, and I'm really, really loving it. By the way, everyone, please give a shout out. Please say, hey, tell us where you're from. We're super excited to have you as well. Okay, so let's dive straight into it. Our first question actually goes to Colonel Gibson. So let's talk some claims, okay? Hot topic, we know it is, but I would love to know, like, what military families should expect if they're currently working through that claims process, and where should they turn if they're running into any issues?
So MJ, I'm gonna start off with, I want to sandwich it because I definitely want a foot stomp. It's a great question. As right now, what we're seeing is most customers, the greatest things that we're hearing for customers, either one, hey, my stuff isn't here. They told me it would be here, or two, my stuff has gotten here, and unfortunately, things are damaged or broken or missing. So you're waiting on your shipment. You were told it was going to be here yesterday. It is not, and come today, it's still not arrived. The TSP should have reached out to you. We've told the TSPs, yes, please reach out to our customers, communicate with them so that the customer knows what is happening with their shipment. The customer knows and understands and can plan for a delay. The TSP should also, or the moving company should also provide that customer information on how to file an inconvenience claim. So they've missed the required delivery date. They should also be saying, hey, we suspect we'll have your shipment delivered by X. And then in the interim, here's the inconvenience claim form. Fill it out, provide it to us. As you remember, back in 2020, we changed the business rules. So we got a lot of things about receipts. We had a lot of questions about receipts. So we did away with receipts, tried to make that process a lot easier for families and say, hey, for the first 7 days, no receipts are required, but still leaving that option if there's something out of the ordinary that family needs in order to establish a residence while they wait for their household goods. We still left some room so that could be negotiated with the TSP. Again, contact the transportation office, contact your chain of command. Those are all throughout this process. Those continue to be relevant and ready resources for you. Then your shipment finally arrives. You want to make sure that you walk through your residence with that moving company representative to assess any pre-existing damage, and then walk through again after they've gotten everything into the residence to assess any damage that occurred. They are required to place down some protective equipment, mats and things like that to protect those high traffic entryways, the walls, the flooring, and we definitely want them to do that because at the end of the day, that makes it easier on our customers to be able to fully establish their household when not having to worry about damage or cleaning and things of that nature. And so now that everything's in the home and you're unpacked, the movers have placed those things on that flat surface like you've asked them to do. Though we would hope that it does not happen, we find all too often that it does. Either on a large scale or on a small scale, with regards to the items that are lost, damaged, or just missing. And the customer, what do I do now? Assess all of that, document it. The great thing now is, I know for me, when I move 75 days, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get through all my stuff, and assessing what's damaged, what's missing. We expanded that to allow for 180 days, so you can do it leisurely. And you could tell I'm the service member in my household, so that was a great change for me, because now by this time I'm in the office. Potentially the kids are in school or summer programs were moving around, and that allowed me that now allows me that time to do that. So I imagine it's the same for our customers that we're speaking to today. But be thorough as possible in going through and assessing that. Once you've documented, you've provided notice to the moving company. So that's the next thing that you want to do, is to provide that notice to the moving company. Just say, hey, I intend to file a claim. Right. So that's the first thing that we definitely want to make sure happens. Once you've provided that notice, so 180 days to now provide the notice, and then you still have 9 months after the delivery date to complete that claim with the TSP. So those are important dates and important steps to take when negotiating the claims process now at this point. So your inventory is critical. Going through your inventory, try to do as much as that as possible while you have the moving crew in the house. As they have unloaded, unpacked, try to immediately assess what is missing, what is damaged, and then you can fill out that form that say, hey, we noticed that these things were lost or damaged upon delivery, and that'll immediately go back to the TSP, and then everything else that you continue to discover, you'll have an opportunity to continue to assess that.
Okay, and so just to let everybody know, I see your questions coming in. I think it's fantastic. Everything we talk about today, we are dropping those links right there in the comment section for you to have on hand. But additionally, we're going to be answering questions sometimes throughout, but we might actually end up answering your question through the ones we've pre-prepared. We've heard you, we've seen you, we know what's on your mind, and we've already kind of came up with those, but there is kind of a follow-up to that, Colonel Gibson, and that question comes from Carrie. Shout out Carrie Novak. Is there anything that can be done when you make a claim and the company isn't going to give you the full price for the item that was damaged?
Ms. Novak, thank you so much for that question. And all too often, we do find that as the customer and the TSP goes into DPS, and there's the back and forth and what we call that period of negotiation. But yes, unfortunately, the customer and the TSP may come to a point where they find that, hey, everybody has gotten to their best offer, and we are now where we're not willing or able to negotiate based on the customer's needs or the moving company's viewpoint on damages, and how do we go about making the customer whole on those damages or losses. What I would advise you to do is first, don't reject the whole claim in DPS. If there are some items that you and the TSP agree upon, accept those items, right, in DPS, so that the claim can be closed out for those portions of the shipments or those portions of the claim. And then the items that you do not disagree on, items that you do disagree on, still, what I would recommend is you can then transfer that claim over to the military claims office so that they can work and negotiate on your behalf at that point for those remaining items. I hope that answers the question.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carrie, and thank you, Colonel Gibson, for that. That is absolutely a question that often gets asked because I don't know if you guys know this, because I know I don't look it, but I have a daughter who's 23 who decided our lives look so cool that she decided to join our club. So she just became a mil spouse this year. And so she's going to be executing her very first PCS within the next 6 to 9 months when her husband gets back from deployment, because that's a thing. And so I'm going to actually just defer her to this webinar and to your answers, because she's not listening to mom. Okay, so follow up, in addition to that, Colonel Gibson, we've been hearing a lot about some supply chain issues and labor shortages that are impacting literally almost every single industry in our country, right? And even though every industry is being impacted, how might these particular challenges impact military families who might be PCSing soon? And what should they or can they do to prepare?
Oh, thank you. That is a great question. And unfortunately, as we saw the pandemic come upon us last summer, we're still being impacted by those challenges, and we've continued to be throughout this moving season, 2021 moving season. Um, and right now, based off of what we're starting to feel a little bit late, I think, in the game than what we saw last summer, where we was just like we were waiting for, just something catastrophic to occur with the relocation process. And, knock on wood, I felt like it went a lot smoother than many of us had anticipated, especially in light of the stop movement. Um, and so this summer, definitely, probably the back end of the pandemic and those impacts with the supply chain challenges, labor, you name it. So we've definitely taken steps on this end to work with our industry partners, as well as the services across the board to try to smooth out those impacts. Unfortunately, um, not to give a view of doom and gloom, but also to help to manage expectations. What we see out there that's happening now, especially now that everybody's doing their holiday shipping, um, we are still impacted. We are not exempt from what is occurring, and that everybody is looking at that is occurring in the economy. So unfortunately, we are not exempt from that, but we are definitely doing our best to keep the lines of communication open with everyone across the enterprise. And I think, there's a part for everyone to play. We continue to emphasize to industry only accept those shipments that they are able to handle in accordance with the business rules in a timely manner with a safe and competent crew. And so we rather see them create a demand that, hey, we're at capacity, and then as opposed to having a customer. Service with a crew that is not prepared, or huge damage to shipments. So that we don't want to see. So we're still pushing for quality relocation efforts along that lines. And we're still asking industry to keep the lines of communication open with our customers. Over.
Can I just say, I love that she says over. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to steal that from you. So just a kind of a follow up to that, just a quick question. So, in the event that, say, their move does get canceled, encouraging the industry, we appreciate that because you are our conduit. You're our voice in that respect. So what happens? Like, what can a family do if they're like, oh my gosh, they just canceled and this was supposed to happen? Like, what do they do in that instance?
So I think those points that you made at the intro, which is talk to your local transportation office. They are best equipped. They know your situation. Chances are they are working with that moving company because they are local. They understand the local environments, the local constraints there within that community better than we do here at Scott. Um, also communicate that with your chain of command. Uh, while the transportation office, there are some aspects that maybe they can't do in terms of um, potentially pushing back your report date. That is where the chain of command needs to be involved to help make that determination with the member and their family, so that we are not putting that member in a position where they are forced to have to move on, or PCS without their family, or forced to feel like they're forced to have to do a PPM. We're trying to keep our customers out of feeling like that, because not everybody is physically able to do a PPM. So we try to move customers away from that as much as possible, with especially if they have not had that conversation with the transportation office and their chain of command to kind of go through all of the options that are there in the toolkit for them. Over.
Thank you so much for that. And we really appreciate those answers, because especially since you're living this life too, you're on both ends of the spectrum. So you see it through both lenses, and that's appreciated. Okay, so my next question is actually going to go to Miss Melissa Jordan. Let me go ahead and pull that up while our awesome guru on the back end, Teresa, is there. You are. Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
Okay, so we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. Everyone in the audience has heard me brief this. As of November 1st, families will no longer go to move.mil to start their move process. They will instead head over to Military OneSource upon receiving those hard copy orders, right? So what's the difference between these two platforms? And will this in any way impact PCS moves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, MJ. So with the Military OneSource migration, we're fulfilling a collaboration that's almost a year old between TRANSCOM, who manages the Defense Personal Property Management Office, and the Office of Secretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness. And they realized that we have a DoD platform, Military OneSource, that was built for the full spectrum of what a military family needs, service members, single, and military families. And so while we did have a lot of collaboration with uploads of customer information, we realized that it is better for the service member and military families to look at every aspect of their relocation across the full spectrum. And I can give you an example. My eldest daughter is active duty Air Force, and she and her husband moved from San Antonio to Colorado Springs last year. And so she's looking into move.mil, pulling down information checklists, and then she's also working with her spouse about the base he's going to. My son-in-law is also active duty. He's at the Air Force Academy. She's at Peterson Air Force Base. And so they're jumping back and forth on where to look for housing, what support center would need to support them best. And then, of course, they're looking for childcare solutions for my grandson. So which CDC is, the Child Development Center, is the right one. And all of the house hunting and all of those things that go into the full spectrum of a military relocation. So it's not just moving. And we acknowledge that. But those of us who've been active duty, we can understand that, like you, MJ. And so what we tried to do is make sure that this is a seamless experience for our relocating members and their families, and that they can access one place. Now, Military OneSource is a wonderful integrator, and their staff is amazing at uploading and taking our information and presenting it in a way that is intuitive and seamless for our customers. But they cannot do everything. Of course, we have Defense Personal Property System, DPS, that you mentioned. That's Mr. Martinez's area. He and his team do a great job with that. That is a standalone system. On the dashboard that Janie will talk about a little bit later, so Danny and Janie are talking about those things. Those are housed over in other systems like the TRANSCOM page, but we want everything to be right there on Military OneSource so everyone can go in and have a look and then click on those links when they need to, and it should be very seamless for them to go from place to place. So that's what we're trying to get after.
And you know,
yes.
Yes. Speaking of which, here we go, right there.
And so when you look there so before you get to that screen, if you're going to the Military OneSource homepage, they have a lot of information and graphics there. You want to scroll all the way down and you'll see popular resources at the very bottom in the right-hand corner. And it says DPS, PCS, and military moves. And that's where our information resides. So you can scroll up just a little bit there, a little bit more, and then you'll see it. Let's see if we've got you on the right page. So there is, I think that we're on a different page, militaryOneSource.mil. There it is, right there. DPS, PCS, and military moves. And then
Top billing.
Right. And then you've already jumped and navigated to that. So let's just pause here a second and give our listeners and viewers a chance just to see where that is. And then as we look through this, it is different than move.mil, and that move.mil was just a general upload of products. We didn't have professional webmasters. We had a really great professional who managed everything, from the front facing. But what we're looking at is an integrated information source. And if you scroll down for PCS military moves, you'll see several articles. And so we're not just talking about getting your things packed. We're talking about everything that a military moving person, a DoD customer would be thinking about. And so you can move in and out of there. And of course, there's a login to DPS link on almost at least 2 pages, if not a few more, just in case you want to hop straight to DPS and start planning your move. And I will let Danny speak more about that if there's questions, because he and his team are really terrific at that. And so you can see the resources. There is a bit of support. There's always a support page and a feedback page. And in addition to feedback about the site, there's a great location on the pages for you to fill out your customer satisfaction survey, or at least understand the importance of it and go back into DPS. And I'd like to foot stomp customer satisfaction surveys. After your move, everyone's really busy. You're getting ready for the move. You're saying goodbye to your things. Then you've got this thrash where you're getting to the next location, and then you're saying hello to your things. And it's tempting just to let it go after you finish. But we really do want that customer satisfaction survey data, so that can inform our approaches going forward. I'll pause there to see if we have any questions.
Yes, let me see. I'm kind of dual heading, trying to do the multitasking thing. And I'm not seeing any come through. It does seem like they are definitely watching it. And we are dropping these links to those moving resources that you see here. And it's literally comprehensive. That's what really gets me, because when I go to one place, obviously you see I have a lot of tabs open. This is nothing compared to my regular brain. So having something like all of this kind of bullet pointed is fantastic.
I do want to mention that we have some things a little different on Military OneSource, because we are integrated with the full relocation spectrum. So we do have, and on Move.mil, for example, we had a contact page only for personal property support offices or local transportation offices. But on Military OneSource, you'll see it presented a little bit differently. And I think Kristen here in the background has a link that we can drop in there. And that is basically what you want to look at each location. Again, is it a local transportation office to talk to a counselor about your personal property relocation? Is there a POV shipment in play if there's an overseas move, or whatever else you need to look at? So it's really more comprehensive and integrated. And we're hoping that the customers who are accessing Military Move find it really usable, very user-friendly. And we would certainly love feedback from customers on how to make it even more intuitive.
And I really like that you said that, because our audience here, these are the users, and they are very happy to provide that. And some of the comments that I'm seeing so far are, this is fantastic. This page looks awesome. Another person, Destin, shout out. It feels very simple, which is super important, because, PCS can be complex. Having a simple tool to use just makes our day. Just makes our day.
Exactly. Glad to hear it. And we do want to make everything much simpler for our relocating customers. So a little bit less stress and make it simple, intuitive, and that's what we're going for. And we would love to continue to get feedback through your group, MJ, or we can take it straight from our TRANSCOM offices as well. So great.
One team, one fight, people. One team, one fight. And then I really like too how it has this military installation. So if you're looking for a specific program or services that has to do with those household goods, a transportation office, inbound, you know what I mean? Here's the zip code or the state. Hi, this is awesome.
Exactly. Yes, that's what we're going for.
Oh, that is wonderful. Okay, let me stop share real quick and look and see. And again, we are dropping all of these links in here for you. We are also keeping in touch with our friends at US Transportation Command. And they are, because we have a large OCONUS following, and they're probably sleeping right now. We have some diehards in here that are from Germany, but, they watch it on the replay and they have questions too. And so TRANSCOM has decided to, we funnel them over, they answer them, and we bring them to you. Yes, we will answer your questions if you don't get it in progress.
Absolutely.
Let me see really quick. It looks like we are less stress is best. Carrie, absolutely. Absolutely. And then Charmaine, shout out Charmaine. Sounds like more stressless PCSs are coming.
That's what we're aiming for.
It's all about the goals. It's all about the goals. And by the way, just pause for effect. You yourself at one point were active duty, you said, right?
Yes.
And now your daughter and her husband are following in the footsteps, and you have a G baby. I have right here a comment from Sally Houston. Shout out, Sally. How do you have 2 grown kids?
Well, I have 3 grown kids, and my son is also active duty Air Force as well. The youngest, the college student, may or may not follow. But yes, I have a very vested interest in making sure that customers have a very user-friendly experience. And the whole DPMO staff is just it's a privilege to work with such professionals who are devoted to this really noble effort. So please keep the feedback coming.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, next up on the lineup is going to be Janie. And we're going to talk a little bit about this new customer dashboard. Teresa, if you could throw Janie up on the screen, if she is she on screen? Do we have her? Oh, and just before she switches over, Charmaine says, since you both have the Fountain of Youth, please share.
Thank you, Charmaine. Thank you so much.
You're awesome. My opinion is, growing older is mandatory. Growing up is so optional. Yes. Okay, let me see if we can't get Janie up here. There she is.
Hi.
Oh, all right. So we're going to talk a little bit about this customer dashboard because this is a new thing. So can you tell us a little bit about this new customer dashboard that we've all been hearing about, and what is it and why is it even important? And I'm going to go ahead and throw up our screen while you're talking.
Yeah, sure. So for a while now, the customers, our soldiers, moving families, military wives have all requested more program transparency and transparency into the TSPs that are servicing their moves. So we created what we're calling the customer facing dashboard. It was launched in October. Out there on US TRANSCOM.mil's webpage. You can see in the top there's the Defense Personal Property Program tab in the far right. And then once you click that, you get straight to the dashboard there. So the first page is the program overview, and that is actually going to give you some high level statistics and program metrics. You can see with the top graph there, it will show you, the peak season, the non-peak season. I heard you say earlier, flatten the curve. We appreciate that. But then you've got your program metrics in the top left, and then your peak season metrics in the top right there. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a couple more metrics regarding, the service shares for on there on the left by movement type, on-time deliveries for household goods and unaccompanied baggage. And then you also have that pie chart down there with the customer satisfaction survey results and how the surveys are coming in, excellent, good, satisfactory. And unfortunately, there are little slivers there for poor and unsatisfactory. I do want to point out that this just posted in October, and this is version 1. We are working every day to improve this. So version 2 is supposed to be launched early in 2022 and version 3 in the spring. So visit it often when you're moving or if you have any questions, and you will see upcoming changes very soon to this page as we break out the customer satisfaction survey area. If you scroll there, right, and you click the TSP details page, this one gets down and dirty on the TSPs that are servicing your moves. So if you go to your transportation office to schedule your move and they give you a TSP that's servicing your move, you can go out to this website and you can search it by a TSP name or by SCAT code on the left there. If you select it, if you select it, then it will toggle on the right. The 4 quads will toggle and it'll show you the metrics for that particular TSP there. So you can see it'll show you the number of delivered shipments for the year. And the top right will show you the customer satisfaction claims of that TSP that you selected in comparison to the program as a whole. And then it'll also show you punitive actions, letters of warning and suspension, and then their on-time delivery rate in the bottom right-hand quad. So this is updated. This page is updated, both of them, monthly. So we are actually working this week to incorporate November's data. So that will be updated as soon as available. And then again, in January, we'll go back and be able to give you a whole 2021 yearly view.
Awesome. And I'm getting some comments here. I'm not going to throw them up on the screen because that would be just crazy. with all the things. But what I can see here is, I see Candace, shout out Candace. I absolutely love that we can see all of this data. I mean, I've seen there's a lot of people looking at this right now. I bet you they're just itching to kind of go over and play. I'm a data junkie as a rule by nature. So this is a rabbit hole that I will probably go down someday.
Yeah, and like I said, we had just posted it. We didn't want to get great in the way of good. So we understand that there are improvements and more data to be added. That said, in the spring of 2022, we're preparing to add like privately owned vehicle metrics and additional metrics of some of the sub-programs within the moving operation as we move forward with future iterations. So more to come.
Okay, so, and this includes, companies that move us OCONUS as well, correct?
Right. Yes.
All right.
International and domestic. Yes.
Yes, because we love our OCONUS peeps.
We knew.
Let me see. Oh, I see Charmaine said my inner nerd is excited. That's kind of cool. And again, so if somebody has maybe a suggestion or a question about that data, like, hey, are you guys looking at this too? Or what about this type of thing? Are you want to hear from them, right?
Absolutely. Yes. We have an org box. My analytics team has an org box, and we monitor that, and a majority of the requests or inquiries, I shouldn't say requests, about the customer facing dashboard, we turn around and respond to. And we do also take suggestions into account for future versions or iterations. As you know, websites, it's not a one day turnaround and making a change on on US TRANSCOM's website. So we take it into account and try to figure out which iteration to provide that in.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And again, everyone, anybody who has any questions, comments, concerns, maybe just wants to shout our girl Janie out, please drop them. And if we don't get to you this time, we will get to you next time. We have a very great system with our friends over here at TRANSCOM, and we send them the questions, they give us the answers. We will not leave you hanging. So thank you so much. And I am now going to bring on Mr. Danny Martinez.
Thank you.
To talk to us about the cherry on the top, AKA the Global Household Goods Contract, otherwise known as GHC, because we love our acronyms in the military, right? Okay, so first of all, again, welcome, Danny. But we've heard a lot about this Global Household Goods Contract over the last couple of years. And we heard that it's going to get awarded. So what does that mean for PCSing families? And where can our audience go to learn more?
Great. Yes, I'm definitely excited about the chance to talk about it. So really what it means is a better quality program, a better quality move. GHC is one aspect of our broader reform efforts. I know you've had TRANSCOM on here for a while now, and we've been talking about all of the things we're doing to improve the program. And this is, as you called it, this is the cherry on top. This is the main thrust of our efforts that will transform the program from one, as you just saw Janie talking about all these different providers that you have to dig through, right? The GHC will essentially transform the program so we're not dealing with 900 commercial entities and we're working with a single move manager. And it is a broader form, broader part of that larger reform. Everything that we've been changing over the years, you heard Colonel Gibson talk about the business rule changes on inconvenience claims. All of these things are also going to be part of the GHC program, and it will be a single move manager. Again, the emphasis is going to be on improving the service at the curb, and I could get into all the details of why that contract setup will actually make it better. But we're also going to expect more modern and digital tools. I know there were some statements on DPS, and we try to improve DPS, but we know also that the commercial industry just simply does software better. And so one of the things that the GHC Prime will be able to do is instantly deliver modern digital tools, mobile compatible. These are all requirements in the contract. And so we do expect that that's going to be delivered on day one. Let's see. The other thing that I think is important to mention here is there will be a transition period. So the contract was awarded, and there were 2 protests submitted. You can read about it, as part of your question where you can find out more. I believe the chat. The link is on there in the chat, and so you can read about everything I'm talking about here on that link in more detail. So even though the contract was awarded and protests were submitted, I want to mention that once we clear those protests, there will be a transition period that we've built into the contract that allows TRANSCOM and the GHG prime provider to make sure that we interface all of our IT systems, establish customer support capabilities, and that training is conducted for all the government offices, the TMOs, as well as all of the government personnel on the contractor's IT system. And then following that, we'll start moving shipments under GHC under a phased-in approach. And it really depends on, the timing of the protests and the outcome of those protests, exactly when that will actually start moving shipments. But we're really looking at the preponderance of moves won't move until calendar year 2023. But again, the whole point is, I think everything you've been hearing earlier in this session speaks to the complexity of this program. I'm looking at some of the questions on here. Different providers doing things differently. I saw some comments on communication for unaccompanied baggage and the lack of communication. These are all things that having a standard single responsible provider with a single digital platform will help to standardize and solve. A lot of the communication disconnects we see today are really driven by the fact that we have so many different providers, and so are many of the quality issues that you see. It's not an optimized logistics network, and so it's really it's going to be a transformation of the industry, and I think that I can tell you I'm very excited about it, having been involved in this program for many years. It's not going to be a panacea solution for everything. I think, unfortunately, moving will still be difficult, as many of the folks on here know. I've only moved 5 times, so I'm certainly a newbie compared to many folks out there who have PCS, 10, 20 times. But I know it's not a fun experience. It's challenging, and we're simply trying to make it as less, minimize the stress and make it as stress-less as possible. And that way families can focus on all of those things that we've been talking about here today.
No, for sure. And I really appreciate you, kind of acknowledging that. We have again, I'm seeing a lot of your questions. We're definitely going to get with them. I mean, imagine being able to have your questions answered by US Transportation Command. That's amazing, right? And I'm glad you addressed the communication aspect of things, because you're right. There are a lot of comments, we see you, Dustin, about, that communication factor. We're going to have a mental health professional on at some point in the year of 2022 to talk to us about the mini trauma of PCSing, because for anybody, service member, family member, dependent, kids, it's a thing. It is a thing. And so anything that can mitigate that in any way is fantastic. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the GHG, changes and maybe makes things a little bit easier. We all know transition can be rough, but then a butterfly comes out, right? Like a cocoon, and the whole metamorphosis thing. So we're going to just go ahead and be cautiously optimistic, as we always do, but also be prepared. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I'm going to bring everybody else on so that you can see their lovely faces, because this has been a fantastical webinar. Oh my, see, hi, Colonel Gibson, look at that smile. I'm saying it. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. I love it. You know what? Our friends here at TRANSCOM are very, very busy protecting your moves and looking to kind of, they work really hard, and they're very, very busy. And we're very thankful to even have you on, especially this many of you. How awesome is that? Do you think that we might have time for a couple questions, or would you prefer all of your questions will be answered, or would you prefer that I go ahead and send those and you guys can rapid fire them back to me so that we can get them answered? How would you prefer to handle that?
I think we can take a couple of questions and see how that goes, and then we'll wrap up after a few minutes, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Okay, the first question is going to come from Denise West. Shout out, Denise. Question: is it better to try and do a door-to-door to be able to lessen the possibility of theft and broken items?
So I'll jump in there and answer this one, and Mr. Martinez, he'll definitely back me up if need be. From a personal aspect, I prefer to do a door to door, which means for me, being the member and the wife, which means for me, I need to take time to figure out where we're going to stay at, have an address ready, and then plan out everything so that pickup, even like we moved from California to DC, cross country. So the timing is critical, understanding what that required delivery date is. I will say that the door-to-door moves for us tend to reduce damage, because at the end of the day, if people handle my stuff less, there's a less chance of it getting lost or damaged. Just like my kids' toys, right? If I take them to grandma's house and then we go to auntie's house, then we stay in the hotel, I am bound to lose something in that transition versus going to grandma's house and coming home. It's no different with your personal property. So definitely, if your schedule permits and the planning lines out, I would recommend from a personal aspect to do that door-to-door move. It just reduces handling opportunities and reduces the chance of loss and damage. Over.
Over. I love it. Well, thank you for that. And I hope that answers your question, Denise. Good question, by the way. And then our next question would be from Janine. Shout out, Janine. Just to clarify, if the TSP isn't helping us, we transfer everything to the MCO. Like, do we need to file a whole new claim, or can they share like a database?
Yeah, I can go ahead and jump on that one, Colonel Gibson. So right now, so the military claims process is service specific, as most of you know, if depending on what branch of service you're with. They can log into the defense personal property system, but usually because that's not a well-developed capability in the system, and they have their own systems in some cases, for the Air Force and the Army, they will probably ask you, and I'm kind of speaking out of my space here because I'm not a military claims person, but my knowledge, I'm comfortable letting you know that they will probably ask you to resubmit your information, unfortunately. And I know that I do hear some complaints about that, and we are working on that. In the GHC contract, we actually have a requirement that the GHC Prime has to be able to interface and facilitate the transfer of information over to the MCOs as well. So hopefully that answers that question.
And Janine, again, if you need a little bit more clarification, they're available. They just let us know what that is. We'll shoot it on over. I think Melissa, yes, I think Melissa may have had a follow-up.
It's total agreement with Colonel Gibson and Danny, but Janine, just looking at your picture, is your husband Dave Resius?
I can tell you with absolute certainty that he is. She is actually one of our spouse sponsors here for PCS grades in the San Antonio area. She's our That's so funny. Okay.
Please tell him hi. I worked with him in AFRICOM. He's a very sharp officer. So thank you, Janine.
Oh my,
thank you for your service as a military spouse, Janine.
Oh my goodness. See, this is why I love how small the military world is. If Kevin Bacon's got nothing on us, we got 2 degrees of separation, right? Okay, so I think that the last question that I'll throw up, and again, everyone's questions will be answered, but we want to protect the time frame for our TRANSCOM friends. So Dustin, shout out Dustin, who is from Germany, just executed a PCS over there. She wants to know how does the GHC affect overseas moves and dealing with overseas companies?
Yeah, so the GHC will be that single move manager, but obviously, and one of the important things that we acknowledge, the quality of a move is largely based on the service on the curb, right? And that curb could be overseas, it could be here in the domestic program. The contract requires the GHC Prime to have an acknowledgement of that. It has a minimum small business requirement in there because most of the movers out there conducting work are small businesses. So to get to the answer, obviously that's going to involve the GHC Prime relying on subcontractors all over the world, including overseas. So really the improvements that I spoke to though will be expected and required across the world. And the benefits that I mentioned with respect to a single digital platform, they will provide that to their overseas companies as well. And one of the things that we've seen before, and I'm speaking in generic terms here, from going to different trade association meetings. As an example, a lot of the software that's out there today on the commercial market, it has the ability to function in different languages, right? So, for example, the pre-move survey or the digital inventories that you have done overseas, for those packers, we still have the requirement in the GHC contract that one crew member has to speak English and be fluent in English. But the software that the GHC Prime may choose to deliver, right? And again, I'm not speaking about anything that's in any offers, but on the digital space, what is commercially available is software that automatically translates inventories, let's say that are prepared in CONUS, so that when you get to the OCONUS location, if the companies that may be seeing or looking over that inventory can understand what it is if it's in English and they don't speak English, right? So bottom line is, I'm kind of picking an obscure example, but the bottom line is when you're dealing with overseas companies, we will expect the same improved quality and all of the same requirements that exist in CONUS that we are requiring all across the world. On the phase-in, we do expect international to follow domestic. So there will be a delay, and potentially domestic moves will go first and before international. So that's something I want to mention as well.
That is, wow. I mean, it seems obscure, but I don't think it's obscure. If I'm moving to a country where I can't speak, I mean, to have that process, like, they're on notice. These are your guidelines, your standards that you have to abide by. And oh, by the way, here they are in your language, so no excuses. Plus having someone who's able to talk to me as well while I'm doing this very, very interesting move across the world, that is not obscure. That is huge to me. So wow. And good question, Dustin. Shout out. Okay. Any other questions that we get in, especially from our other OCONUS peeps who are sleeping right now, we will go ahead and send them over to our friends at TRANSCOM. And so I'm going to mercifully let them go for now so that they can get back to doing what they do best, which is taking care of our move process. So Danny Martinez, Jane Arnston, Colonel Gibson, and Melissa Jordan, thank you so much for being on with me. I literally appreciate it. One team, one flight, right?
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
All right. And before we go, wow, I am big. Before we go, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have Teresa send me those names so that we can go ahead and run those down for the prize. And we will reach out to you if you aren't seeing this right now. Because it's on. You guys engaged fantastically. You had awesome questions. I am absolutely just blown away. And to be perfectly honest, actually, I'm seeing all of these questions, comments, concerns, shout outs. You know what I'm going to do? Yes, Dustin, shout out Dustin. I did not mute myself or freeze because I did not use the M word. Thank you. Okay. Let me see. And you know what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to collect these names because last week we did have that momentary glitch and we wanted to get more people in. So how about this, everyone? I'm going to announce the winners and we're going to get with you this next coming week. By the way, our very last webinar of the year, December 15th, which is next week, we're going to do a little bit of a year in review on all of the awesome things that you have done and that you have seen, a little bit of a recap from all of our webinars, as well as some amazing prizes, by the way, because it's a year in review and it's almost the holiday season, and we're getting ready for some big, awesome things in 2022. So we need to recap what we went through first before we go forward. I am going to go ahead and actually put this ticker up. So we're just going to do an Oprah. We're just going to do an Oprah moment. We're going to do an Oprah moment at the end and throughout. It's going to be one big Oprah prize moment for you all. Next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12:15. Come meet me right here. And we will be giving away our tutor.com gifts. We will be giving away our gifts from this webinar. And oh, by the way, some Christmas cheer, holiday cheer, just for you. But I need you to understand this, and please know this from our hearts. This too shall PCS. Bye, everybody.